We're rather unique because this is the combination of airplanes, automobiles, and motorcycles and other transportation things that taught America how to ride motorcycles, drive cars, and fly airplanes.
AOPA keeps flying safe, accessible, and fun by protecting your freedom to fly. We are the most trusted one-stop resource for all things related to general aviation. Become an AOPA pilot today.
My name is Terry Bryant. I'm the founder of this museum, which is the Western Antique Air and Auto Museum. And we're a total volunteer-run nonprofit. We have a couple hundred volunteers that keep this place going, keep it maintained, keep the airplanes cleaned up, flyable, annualed, keep the airplanes going, keep the automobiles going. Most of the other fancy car museums just have the really high-end stuff. The automobiles that we have in this museum are the stuff that actually everyday people actually got to use. The motorcycles drive, run, the old hit and miss farm machines, engines run. But we try to have a little smattering of just this kind of stuff that interests somebody. When I researched the concept of having a museum, I looked at lots of museums and I decided that most of the air museums were just sterile. They were just an empty building with an oil dripping P-51 sitting in the middle of it. And that did not interest most people. So we try really hard in this particular museum to have something that interests from the smallest of child to the oldest of adult, whether it be a doll or a model of a car or model of an airplane or something. When you go around the perimeter of our walls here, you'll see all the little stuff that I'm talking about. This is our military section. It's more based on Army aviation as opposed to Air Force. We have some training aircraft. We have all the liaison airplanes. We have one token P-40 because this airport is named after Ken Jernstedt, who was a double ace for Chenault in the Flying Tigers. But we don't consider ourselves to be a fighter museum. We are more of a trainer and a liaison airplane museum. We try to fly most of the airplane every couple of years in here. A lot of these airplanes in this particular building have all been flown several times this year. In the 50 years or 55 years I spent of gathering up and restoring airplanes, I managed to get 42 airplanes flying. And finally got to the point that my wife gave me the ultimatum: either get busy and start the museum you've been talking about, or have an auction. Of course, I couldn't have an auction, so here we are. And once I opened the museum and donated my entire collection on day one of opening, along with the first building and the land that we're sitting on. And then everybody else started donating their airplanes. Right now the foundation has over 150 airplanes that it owns and about 180 cars that it owns. We now produce about 2 to 3 airplanes a year out of our restoration shop, with one full-time mechanic and about 20 volunteers that help him. It's a shop that I use to restore a lot of the 42 airplanes that we opened the museum in. And it's just an accumulation of equipment. Some of it was my dad's, some of it was my granddad's, some of it was mine, and just, it's a shop that we can basically make anything in the way of a part that we need to have for an old airplane, or an old car for that matter. Whole group of airplanes you see behind us, the 206, the Tri-Pacer, the Panther, the Beaver, they're all airplanes that have been donated for the purpose of putting some dollars into our next building.